Hello, and welcome to The Way Home, Crossnore Communities for Children's Facebook Live show, as well as our podcast. My name is Holly Kessler, and I am the Senior Director of Community Relations at Crossnore. Every Tuesday afternoon, we're here on Facebook Live talking with staff members or community partners about the work that we do, the child welfare system, ways we're engaging in our community. And if you miss our live show, you can always rewatch on Facebook or catch the show on our YouTube channel. The podcast comes out on Fridays on our blog at crossnore.org. So there are plenty of ways to engage with our show each week. Today, my guest is Brett Loftis, who is no stranger to our show. Brett is the Chief Executive Officer at Crossnore and also the co-founder of Crossnore's Center for Trauma Resilient Communities. So join me in saying hello to Brett today.
Hi, everybody. Good to be with you.
Glad to have you here again today. We have an exciting event coming up that we're going to talk about. But for folks who may not know you, I don't know who that would be, but just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you before we get started.
Sure. My name is Brett Loftis. I'm the CEO here at Crossnore. I've been here 10 years. And before that, I was a child advocate attorney and ran a law office that did legal representation for children. So about 25 years in child advocacy, and I love what we're doing. And I can't wait to talk to you about the MOVE conference.
Well, we are excited about the conference for sure. And congratulations on 10 years. That hardly seems possible.
Time truly flies.
I know. I remember when I first heard about Crossnore from you and I was like, Cross what? Where? But we've come a long way in those 10 years, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Well, before we talk about the conference specifically, let's talk about the Youth Independent Living program at Crossnore and how that fits into our mission, because that's an important piece of the MOVE conference. So tell us about Youth Independent Living.
So Youth Independent Living is one of those responses to an issue that really a lot of kids face. So of the 16,000 kids that'll be in foster care at some point this year in North Carolina, unfortunately, many of those will reach their 18th birthday while still in foster care. Many folks hear the term aging out. It's important to know that advocates were successful several years ago in changing the law so children can actually choose to stay in foster care until they're 21. And we love it when students choose to stay with us so we can help them through high school and into college and support them. And so our independent living program is designed specifically for that, to get kids ready for adulthood, to learn those independent living skills, and to give them all the things they need to be successful. But also, even after their 18th birthday, to be able to arrange a living environment and continue with therapy and educational services and all the ways we support young adults as they transition to adulthood. It is very uncommon for a child to be completely independent at 18, no matter what their background. But it is especially important for kids who've experienced trauma to have those supports long into their 20s.
Yeah, that's what I often tell people is that, kids, like all kids, think at 18 they're ready to take on the world. My own kids did, your kids did and will, and but very few of them really, really are. And like our kids have family and they have support systems around them. And so for kids that are aging out of foster care, they just don't have those supports.
Yeah. And it's critically important that we wrap them up as tightly as we can with all the supports they need, because that is truly the difference between a child falling into homelessness or falling into a place where they could be taken advantage of by other adults who don't mean well. Lots of different risk factors for young adults as they reach adulthood when they're coming from foster care. And so all the more reason we have to figure out ways to support them as tightly as we can with a combination of professional services and community-based services.
And so speaking of community-based services, then we have a community partner called the Open Table. So tell us about the Open Table and that partnership and how that started.
Yeah, the Open Table is a national nonprofit that really specializes in building the structures and systems that young adults need as they're transitioning out from childhood to adulthood, specifically those kids coming from the child welfare system. And so we partner with them because they really have researched and found ways to use community volunteers and other community folks to support a young adult And so that kind of goes to those professional services and community-based services that really need to be woven together as an important safety net for kids. And we love what Open Table does because their mission is very specific and their model is very tested. And it's actually, I believe, in about 30 states now. So they've been a great partner for us.
And so the open table model, they don't really like to use the word mentoring. They call the young adult that comes to the table a friend, which I really, really like. But what kind of difference can that make? Tell us sort of about the model around the table and what difference can that really make in a young adult's life?
Well, if you kind of think what all of us need in order to be successful adults, it's not just our parents or our family that helps us make us who we are. It is teachers and coaches and ministers and folks in the community who've done some things maybe are a little further down the path of life than we are. And so sometimes you need a cadre of people, a whole team of folks to talk to you about career, maybe to talk to you about what kind of family life you want one day, or to even talk to you about colleges and trade schools and different ways to pick the things you want to do with your life. And so that's the cool thing about Open Table is it's a team of people and they all come with different backgrounds and different skill sets to walk alongside a child. This is not somebody telling a kid what to do or a young adult what to do or forcing them to do anything they don't want to do. It's really about giving folks the resources to be able to explore options. And that's really critically important for young adults, especially those in the foster care system, is that to feel like they have some power over their life, that they can make some choices for themselves, because unfortunately in the system, a lot of choices are made for them and they don't get a lot of freedom or sense of agency. And this is part of that.
And so when you mention resources, does that include money? Are the people, the other adults that come around the table, are they expected to throw money at these young adults' issues? Or
No, it's important to know that they're there to offer their guidance that they have learned from their life. So they're not there as a professional support. They're not there as a therapist or a professional parent. They're there as a concerned community member and truly a friend. And so if you wanted to go into the banking industry, you would find somebody in banking to talk to give you some advice about what to do it. Or if you wanted to be an artist, you might need to talk to an artist about what that looks like. Or if you just want to figure out, what do I do when that light comes on the dashboard of my car and it freaks me out? Probably I'll just keep driving and see what happens. Well, no. We need an adult in our life to sometimes say, hey, that's important to take care of. And it's a lot cheaper if you take care of it now than wait till later. And we forget how often young adults weren't taught certain things and don't know certain things about how to take care of themselves in a big world that can be really confusing.
We had Joe Torrance from the Open Table on a few weeks ago, and that the car example is one of the examples that he talks about a lot. And also just thinking about places where people can be taken advantage of sometimes. There's lots and lots of really good, honest mechanics out there, but we know that there are a few that aren't. And so what does a young adult do? How do they sort of parse through all of that themselves without some guidance? And so that's a great place at the Open Table. You know, what if somebody said, hey, I've got a great mechanic. Let me introduce you to them.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and somebody to say, hey, just because that credit card company sent you a credit card with a $25,000 limit does not mean that's free money. And here's what that looks like. And here's, if you charge it on that card, this is what compound interest is. And this is how people get in real financial trouble. But young people don't know that.
No, they don't. They really don't. And it's interesting too, what kind of situations even young adults can find themselves in. One of the stories that Joe tells that I think is so impactful about the Open Table is about a young man who had sort of completed his table, the tables usually last about 9 to 12 months. And when the young adult has accomplished some of their goals, then maybe that regular meeting, that formal type relationship comes to an end. But for this young man, he got a call one day that his grandmother had passed away. And he had 3 phone numbers in his phone. One was his grandmother, one was his caseworker, and one was the leader of his Open Table. And so he is the next of kin for this grandmother who has passed. And what does he do? And he called the leader of his Open Table, and they walked with him through that.
We all need people in our lives to support us. It's important for us to remember that we didn't get where we got in life by ourselves. There was somebody there to help us. There's a young man that has been part of our family for almost 20 years now. And, we didn't officially adopt him. He's an adult and a dad. He's a single dad. And we still talk very regularly. And, he calls me dad because I'm the only dad in his life. And
Mhm.
I help him sometimes navigate things like how to leave a job, how to find a job, how to deal with a financial issue, or how to deal with a relationship issue. Those are all important things. And if your parents are not part of your life, or if they're not the kind of support that you definitely need a team of people around you.
Absolutely. I'm always so struck by something that you often say, Brett, which is, where is this kid going to have Thanksgiving when they're 25? Which may or may not be about Thanksgiving specifically, but really is sort of indicative of what are the supports, what is the permanency in this young adult's life,
Yep.
and who can come around and provide that.
Yeah, that's the proxy for permanence, is
Yep.
that who are those consistent, stable relationships? Who, when you get engaged, who do you want to bring somebody home to introduce them? A holiday, a life event that's positive, with a birth of a baby, all the different things that are great in your life. You want people around you. And that's why it's really important that Open Table focuses a lot on partnering with churches. Faith communities are one of those things that we know, both through research and through experience, that if a child can connect with a sense of who they are in the universe and have people that support not only their faith development, but also their cultural traditions and other things that make them who they are, those young adults do better, and they have a stronger sense of resilience, and they have better life outcomes.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned churches. That's a perfect segue into our talking about the MOVE conference, because we have sent out invitations to churches all over Western North Carolina, inviting pastors and lay leaders, staff, really anybody, any individuals can come to the MOVE conference on February 16th here on our Winston-Salem campus. So tell everybody what the MOVE conference is about.
So the MOVE conference is about answering one essential question. I get this from faith communities all the time. They'll say, hey, we really know this is a problem and we want to help, but we're not quite sure how to do it, how to go about it. And folks sometimes can be really concerned that they're going to do something to make a situation worse. And that's really valid. So the MOVE conference is about getting everybody together to have a big collective conversation about the role of faith communities in the life of a young adult as they transition to adulthood. It's a great way to use really wonderful untapped resources that are out there, that are folks sitting in a congregation that has a lot to offer a young adult, but they just may not know how to get paired with them, or they may not know how to start the process. And the MOVE conference is about talking to those churches and other faith communities about how to get going, and then help them understand what the training looks like and the support looks like, so we don't just throw people out there on their own. We support them in the process.
Absolutely. So at the conference on February 16th, of course, we're going to have some snacks and some lunch, but we're also going to have Sarah Norris, who is our Chief Program Officer, is going to speak to us about sort of the state of child welfare in North Carolina. And then John Katoff from the Open Table is also going to be with us, and we're going to even do an Open Table simulation over lunch. And then we'll have Mark Washington from Healthy Blue, who will sort of wrap up the day. And then Brett, you're going to be presenting to us as well. What are you going to be talking about?
So I'm just going to talk about the role of faith communities in general and how we support young people. So one of the things I care a lot about is the intersections of trauma and resilience, and how we support kids who have unique vulnerabilities because of some of the things they've experienced early in their life. And it means that they need even more support, and they need support from folks who understand what it means when you've experienced that kind of adversity. So I am super excited about talking about how we build resilience in young people. And I mentioned earlier, but this is really supported by research. Research supports that if you can have a positive relationship with a consistent adult in your life outcomes are dramatically better than those people who don't. We have a bit of an epidemic of loneliness, not just for kids in foster care, but in general. And I love the concept of maybe connecting some adults in real positive relationships with young adults that are mutually beneficial. It's not just for the benefit of the young person. Every person I know who's worked on an Open Table, they get something really special out of that process too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we are also having this conference in person. There's not a virtual option because we want folks to come into the room and let's sit face to face, and we'll be careful for sure. We have a large space in our chapel that we're using, but we really wanted folks to be face to face and be able to talk about this issue together, learn some, practice some, and then kind of figure out what their next steps are. So we're super excited about this. It's in about a week, but there's still time to register. We've still got space. So how can folks find out more about the conference, Brett?
So the best way is to go to our website, which is www.crossnore.org, CROSSNORE.org. All the information's on there, or you can certainly call our main line if you want more information there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. Anything else that you would say about how important this is, or inviting folks to the MOVE conference?
No, just if there's anything in your spirit that stirs around wanting to help a young adult in this situation specifically, just come. There's no commitment from coming to the conference. It's a wonderful way to get information and make connections with other people, and you never know what's going to happen as a result.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Brett, for being here and telling folks about the MOVE conference. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Holly. We'll see y'all on the 16th.
Absolutely. Well, friends, as I have thanked our guests for today, let me also say thanks to each of you who are watching or listening. We so appreciate the opportunity to tell you about Crossnore and today about the MOVE conference. For more information, please visit our website at crossnore.org or follow us on our social media channels at Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. That's it for today, but I hope you will join us again next week right here on the way home.